welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, I'm going to be struggling through this episode. You're going to have to carry my weight today.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. Well, that's what I did all last week, too, so.
Yeah, well, that's true. And we're definitely going to be talking about it throughout the week. Obviously, listeners to the podcast know that my voice is much more, or less crackly on days I'm feeling better. Yeah. But I don't feel that bad. My voice is shot. And we'll explain why here throughout the episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, the reason being is because this episode we are going to be talking about Gama 2022, which is I think the 5th time I've attended. This is your first time that you've attended.
Yeah, no, and it was fun. Gama is not a convention that most people think it is. Right. It's more for stores and retailers to make connections with game product people such as Asmodee or Game Right or stuff like that.
Right.
So they can see what's the new hotness or what's coming out, what's going on. And it was quite intriguing. I wanted to give a shout out to the local store here, Zia Comics and Gaming, allowing me to jump on because you went for work for them as well. And then he let me go with you guys and you talk with a lot of cool people.
That's right.
Show off the podcast. The back of my shirt actually says the podcast name on it, and we wore these around on a day, and so everybody was like, that's just wrong.
Right, exactly. And of course I had a Daniel too. I don't have it with me today.
Yeah. He forgot the memo.
I guess so. I didn't know there was a memo.
We talked about it in Gama.
That doesn't mean I remember. My head's still a bit of a fog, unfortunately. Because you mentioned it quickly, in passing, we went to represent our store, the local retailer. And so once again, thanks to Zia Comics for letting us do that, of course, as always.
Also, check them out on YouTube and Facebook. They do live from now and then. Again, he also has Talk Nerdy to Me.
That's right. They have a great nerdy-based nerd culture, geek culture podcast and show. And so we went from there for one. Secondly, we went to promote the podcast.
Yep.
And thirdly, I went to promote some of the games that I'm going to be
and you had a lot of interest, so...
Yeah, we had some interest. So I was there talking my lungs off every single day. And
mind you...
We'll get more into it.
Again, this is also in Reno, Nevada, and Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
So, the cigarette capital of the world, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And I didn't realize how much it was going to affect me until it had affected me, and it was already long past that point.
And the fact that you never let your voice rest didn't help matters. And so this is the best he's sounded since probably Monday of last week.
Probably. No, it's got to be at least Sunday.
No, you sounded okay on Sunday. You were just a little coffee. It was Monday where you started getting really raspy.
That's true. Yeah, I'm surprised I was able to keep a voice. It's been tough because of how much I've had to talk.
Yeah, and he talked a lot because, again, he wasn't just doing that. He had to showcase his boss, what was going on, what's good, what we should bring to the store. We had to talk up the podcast. Mind you, I did most of the work there, but he also had to try to pitch his games and sell them too. Mm-hmm. So,
and on top of that, you can imagine, a couple thousand people being in a hall which is not made like the sound wise. It was so loud,
especially
talking through medical grade masks. On top of that, with already having throat issues, I'm surprised half as many people kept their voices. There's a lot of cough drops being passed amongst
that is patrons. True. And then also the game nights, every game night, I think after the first two we didn't really go to them because they were just so loud you couldn't hear the game being explained half the time. And so but there were some really good games and stuff out there, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I do have to ask, what have you been playing?
So I have been playing a few games. We only got a few games in, of course, last week, but the prior week I did get a few games in. I have been playing Kids Chronicles: Quest for the Moonstone with my son, and that is an AR-based game. It's based off of the Chronicles of Crime series from Lucky Duck Games. A lot of QR scanning. And I knew my son wouldn't have a problem with it because he practically lives with a device in front of him.
most kids these days.
Right. The only thing that he struggled with was understanding how to give turns. Because I would say, all right, well, once we look at a location, pass the phone, we'll take turns reading it, have fun like that. And he would be like, all right, well, how about we do this? Let's scan this, let's scan that. And then so after a while, it became him playing the game and me sitting there just getting the cards that he described, which is fine. He's enjoying it. And then he got his sister to play it most recently as well.
Okay.
And again, as long as I reminded him that, there was fine. They absolutely adored the game, and they're still asking to play more.
That's cool.
Absolutely. So, Lucky Duck, you made a great product. Wholeheartedly endorse it as a father.
So there was a few games that we played before we came on this trip. There was also a few games that we played on this trip. Since you mentioned that one, I'm going to mention one of the games that we played at Meepleville in Las Vegas.
Okay.
I thought it was a good game except for one issue, and you know which one I'm going to talk about.
Yep, I know.
And
which
this
one you're
game
talking
is
about.
Aqualin. It's a great two-player strategy game, but and this is the big thing we always knock games on, it's not colorblind friendly at all. And the fact that I could see them better than you could is saying something, because you tend to have the better one when it comes to the red-green.
It tends to be a little easier for me.
Yeah, but when it goes to the blue-purples, you struggle.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this one's the blue, this is the purple. And honestly, they both look blue to me. I was just like, this one's darker, this one's lighter. And you couldn't even pick up the shading.
No.
And so, though, it's a good game. I think it's got a lot of strategy to it. You're basically, one person's either all animals and another person's all colors. Mm-hmm. And
which I was the color.
You were the colors, and I was the animals.
But shouldn't
and
have
you
been.
basically are just scoring what your best for a row of each type is. So for you, it was the color. Mm-hmm. So it was like the red, the green. You're scoring each point for that, but they have to be more than 2 of something. So basically to make a score, because it's all sea creatures. For me, I was trying to score like the seahorses and the turtles and stuff like that. And the thing is, you would move one piece and then put a piece on the board. So you're trying to screw over the person you're doing, but also trying to make sure you trap your piece in place. This way it doesn't get moved. This way they can score properly. And there was points where I would actually set you up for a good move. This way I can put a good move there, because I know you are not going to move that piece now. So, and then you're moving my piece and then trapping things. This way you can get colored and they can't be moved, because they can only move as far as either the edge of the board or another piece is in the way.
That's right.
And so it's very strategic how you're doing that. If they made a new version of this with better colors, or at least
a little more obvious colors,
my big gripe, it's like Quirkle.
Yeah.
Quirkle has issues because the colors are a lot alike, but they also do shapes, kind of like what Aqualin is doing. If you gave us a shape to a specific color or something like that, so like...
Well, that wouldn't work with Quirkle or Aqualin.
But I'm saying, like, with Aqualin, you can... Because they had, like, fractal points for those art. If you gave me a seahorse with a spiral on the yellows and then, like, a square and stuff like that, just give me a little insignia. This way I know, okay, squares represent yellow, spirals represent red, something represents green. I would be able to play this a lot more. For the fact that I really enjoyed this game, I really had fun with it, I am never going to pick it up because I can't play it properly.
And see, I love the Cosmos 2-player line, and I was very excited to play this. And strategically, it's a solid game.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Great strategy.
I struggled so bad with it. I would have to, if I bought this, I would have to make my own copy, or I'd have to make new pieces. Yeah. Even marking it wouldn't do it. It would be too much of a struggle. I'd have to redo my whole
You would have
copy.
to get someone who
so
wasn't...
at that point, why don't I just make my own copy? Sorry.
If you want to know how bad we are with our colorblindness, there's another game that we played, and maybe I'll mention it, maybe I'll not. If not, I'll talk about it just slightly.
Sure.
But go to TikTok and follow the Gamehead Geek. He has a video over there talking about how he's the seeing eye dog for his colorblind friends, because we were playing a specific game.
Yeah, and I won't be talking about it.
Huh?
I won't be talking about it.
Okay, but so Hammer Time, I'll mention a little briefly because I'm not going to talk about it either. But it's a nice little family game where you're trying to knock gems off a shelf. But yeah, go check out that video and see how bad it is for us.
Yeah. So the next, it was really... Hammer Time wasn't nearly as bad for me.
It was bad for me, yeah.
But Aqualin was much worse for me, which is a shame because I was so excited for Aqualin. The next game I've been playing, there's a company called Professor Puzzles that have been making these really small escape room games. And some of them are at Walgreens now for like $5. They're not expensive.
Okay.
One was like Mystery of the Museum or Escape from the Museum. And the other one is Casino of Chaos, which is a little more expensive. And looking into them, it's a 1+ player game. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just give them a try, just because 1+, to see how good I do. Casino of Chaos specifically, if you're playing with multiple players, you all still have to play it separately, technically. There's 4 envelopes, and you give an envelope to each person, and you each have a chance to escape from the museum.
Okay.
Which at the end, you'll just all take a guess and see if you're right. So it's not working together, per se.
Yeah.
So it's really just a 1-player puzzle game. But with that being said, though, all of the puzzles that are in it, they're pretty darn good. They don't time you. Like most escape rooms, it's not if you can escape within a certain amount of time. Because then sometimes people get frustrated after the hour hits. Like, oh, I was just stuck on this one puzzle. I didn't want to hint. Well, I guess I lost, technically, even though I'm almost done.
Yeah.
And people would just solve the puzzles anyway, but then have that dread about it. I like how they approach it. It's a good solo player experience, and I did enjoy it. And it is replayable. In fact, Casino of Chaos, I think that was the one, they have like this little tracing paper thing in it, which doesn't, it's no spoilers or anything, but it has these pieces that are tracing paper, so that way you don't have to mark the cards that are on it.
Okay.
You could just kind of trace over them. Whereas the Mystery at the Museum, the one that's at Walgreens, you do have to mark that one. But it's so inexpensive, it's worth it. I had a really fun time with them, and I do encourage them. So, any of the Professor Puzzle escape rooms, the 2 I played specifically.
Okay. So, I mentioned Hammer Time briefly about how I struggle with colors, and Aqualin, how you struggle with colors. But we played another game at the same time we played Hammer Time, and I'm going to mention this one. We also played Ascension, but that, by the way, that copy, the 10th anniversary edition, amazing.
Very good.
Yeah, it's really good looking.
I forgot how much I enjoyed Ascension until we played it.
Yeah, it's such a good game. It's probably still one of my, if not my favorite deck builder out there, because it's so simple. But the one I'm going to talk about is a reprint of a game that's been reprinted at least one other time, but by a different company. This is by BoardGameTables.com, and this is Factory Funner.
Yes, Factory Funner.
Yeah, and that's what it says. It was a good game. I really enjoyed it. It's got a lot of strategic value, but the spatial issue where, like, okay, I got to do this to connect this to get this, it takes a lot. It is thinky. It's heady. It's one of those games I'm glad someone else in our game group owns. This way I don't have to buy it. I enjoyed it. I had a great time playing it. But in all honesty, it's not something I need to pick up because you play in 8 rounds, something like that, right?
I think 6 rounds, but I might be wrong.
Yeah,
too.
Something like that, where you're trying to make your factory bigger and score more points, but you also deduct points for all the pieces that you ended up using to connect all this together. So I could score 32 points, but I got like 8 pipes and things that block drainage that can give me a negative 8 points out of that. So now I'm only scoring like 22 points, or no, 24 points, something like that.
Yeah.
And you have to be smart about it. You could forego putting something out there. This way you don't have to do it. But then you're basically stagnating and not getting the points that you need to be getting. So if I'm getting 24 points for 3 rounds, and our friend Gamehead Geek, who owns this game, is getting 32 and then 42 and stuff like that, and keeps increasing his score, then I'm not going to be able to keep up. So it's just, you have to make strategic choices. I'm not going to take stuff over here, so I'm just going to ditch this. I'll take the, -2 points for not doing that. Yep. And so I'll still score some points. Yeah, and so it's a great game. It's really heady. Don't go thinking you're going to go into this and have or it being funner, because you're going to have to think really, really hard. And when all 3 of us were done playing it, we're like, oh, man, that was a lot more to it than I thought was.
And see, I was the only one with a previous experience with the games, because I used to own Factory Fun, which is, I think, just basically the square version instead of hexagonals. And it was fun, but I don't own my copy, and I remembered why. Because I thought I would be the only one ever playing it.
Yeah. No, it was a good game. I don't see us playing it all too often, but if he busted out and it'd be like, hey, let's play this again, I'd have no problem doing it. Yeah, I'd just have to be in the mood because sometimes I don't want to think that much in a game.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's a fun little tough spatial puzzle.
Yeah.
And it feels like it has a kind of a snowball thing, too. It's like if you dig yourself a hole with the way you place a few of them, then it gets really tough.
Yeah, it really does. Well, that was interesting. We're only going to talk about 2 games because we're also doing this is a board game breakdown. We normally don't talk about games on here, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
So we had to talk about a bit.
That's
but
right.
now, let's get into the big thing we're here to talk about.
That's right. Let's break down Gama 2022. And so let's talk about the whole experience because this was worth it.
And it's a first for me, too.
Yeah, first time for you. I have done this in the same style multiple times. Yeah, we drove. That's the first
That's
decision,
the first thing. Oh,
which
man.
was interesting in itself because it's from our location. It's a 17-hour drive.
We broke it up in 2 days, 2 and 2 days back.
Right. So the first day we stayed just outside of Las Vegas by Henderson, and we'll talk about that.
Which really messed with him.
Yeah, it did. And then the remaining 7 hours was to Reno, which really messed with him because, which I had done that before. A good friend of mine and a coworker of mine has driven that whole thing after work, and which is just absolutely insane. I don't suggest that for anybody. That just split it up. There was a reason we did it, and it worked out.
Yeah, it was 10 hours we stayed outside Vegas, so it was 10 hours to that, and then 7 hours to Reno. The 10-hour drive is the better drive.
It is. And also we had the advantage of I have a good friend and my brother both live in Tucson.
Yeah.
So we were able to have lunch with them. Do we want to tell them what we did at the restaurant?
So we went to a restaurant, and we'll go ahead and name it. It's called Oink Cafe.
Oink Cafe.
And it was the most ridiculous things we have ever done, but it was worth it.
It absolutely
We ordered regular breakfast. Mm-hmm. You had pancakes. Yep. I had a biscuits and gravy. And then 3 out of the 4 people at the table ordered a flight of bacon. And for people who don't drink, a flight is you have a certain amount of, and usually it's like 8 of different flavored beers. Well, this one, the flight was different flavored bacon.
Everything from sugar coated or sugar cured to
jalapeno. Yeah.
Yep. Jalapeno. There's other flavors too. But yeah, so we tried 3 of us each tried 8 different slices of bacon.
I tried all the bacon. I never finished my bacon. It was too much bacon, and I thought there was never could be too much bacon. But
well, see, you don't party with me enough. You've never had too much bacon unless you've hung out with me and my friend Jonathan. That's really where it's all about. So yeah, too much bacon is not a thing.
I will say, Oink Cafe, some of the best biscuits and gravy that I've ever had, and that's saying something because I got family that live in the South, so they know biscuits and gravy back that way. Also, the bacon, some of them were really, really good, and some of them were like there was one. It was like the chef's choice. It was so sweet. His friend Jonathan that he brought up called it the churro bacon. It really did taste like a churro with saltiness.
Yeah, it was. That was my least favorite because I don't like sweet.
Oh, see, I love sweet.
Yeah. But then after that, one thing that's worth pointing out too is that if you're aware of like current global events and stuff, like there's the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine right now. We're not going to even touch base on that. No. But one of the side effects of that is gas prices are going way up. And we had already decided to drive that. I have never in my life had
tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
we never once realized how crazy it is to spend $75 a tank.
Yeah.
Multiple times to and from a trip. And so when we got to the location, it's now coming down, thankfully. But not during that whole
when
week
we were in the
gone.
trip. Yeah. Oh man, because there was places we had to fill up, and it was like $5.55 a gallon or something like that. It just it hurt.
We had 3/4 of a tank, 15 gallons or something. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting experience to say the least. But we stopped throughout, Phoenix, Kingman, all those places, and then we finally got to Las Vegas that night.
Yeah.
That was a fun time.
That first night was great.
And so now we're reviewing other stuff. First off, the first thing we want to review, let's talk about the show that we went to.
Oh, man. My first magic show.
Your first magic show. This is my third time seeing Penn and Teller live.
Oh, man. And it was great.
Yeah.
It was so good.
So you go ahead.
I had a good time. I've never seen a magic show. And then he was like, okay, well, we're going to go see a magic show. So he's naming like David Blaine and Chris Angel. He's like, I'll go see Penn and Teller.
Copperfield.
Huh?
Copperfield. Yeah. David Blaine doesn't perform live.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Copperfield's one of them. Chris Angel was another one you talked about. Yep. What was surprising, we didn't even think about Shin Lim.
I purposely did not bring him up because I know my wife would be very upset if we saw him.
Okay. And so he's like, well, I'll see Penn and Teller again. I've seen most of their stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, you know what? We'll go see Penn and Teller because I know them from like their TV show. I've known them from other TV shows. I think they're great. I've seen them also like their acts on TV and stuff like that that they've done, like the bullet catch they've done on TV and stuff like that. Oh my God. I can't, and they blend comedy with magic so well. And that's the thing is like, I always told him the one I wanted to see was Amazing Jonathan because he was a really good magician as well as a really good comedian. And Penn and Teller are like that. And oh, it was such a great show. And what's nice about it is you've seen them multiple times.
Yes.
They do a 10 act set or something, or a 10 act set. You've only seen 3 of those acts.
No, they did 10 brand new that they said that they had not done prior to the lockdowns. So I had only seen 3 acts throughout the entire show that they have ever done before. And it's kind of some of their more staples, but there was some real shenanigans in this show, and it was entertaining the entire time. Mm-hmm. I will say Penn is showing his age just a little bit.
He's not moving as well.
Yeah, but
overall, mind you, they've been doing this in, 77 or something like that?
Since 1977.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be moving that
45 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was great. The one thing I really, really loved, they did this sleight of hand trick that this way everybody can see it. They had a camera over top down while they were doing it on stage, and I still couldn't keep up with what they were doing with the coins. That was amazing.
Yeah, the coin trick was really great. I need to contact a friend of mine who is also a magician who does a version of that coin trick, but we've never seen 2 people do it at the same time. Yeah, and
it was a double person.
And one thing that impresses me is that Penn kind of points out sometimes, or used to, that he was never really a magician before. He's just kind of like the narrator while Teller does the magic. Yeah. The stuff he was doing was legitimately really difficult for most magicians.
Which is weird because the narrator is not usually the one that is the basically the stagehand in sense. Whereas they're the magic person, and so the fact that he's normally that, but he was doing some amazing stuff too.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't want to talk about too much about their stuff because I don't want to spoil for people. But they even poke fun at their age.
Yes, they do. One of their bits was just absolutely making fun of the fact that they've been doing it for so long.
And not just the one you're thinking about. The beginning of it. Where
Yep. That was a great.
Because I thought you were talking about the card one.
Nope. Okay. I've been talking about that
opening act.
Amazing escape.
It was hilarious.
We can only do so much, but yeah, it was good to be back in Vegas for, I don't know, this is probably my 6th or 7th time in Vegas.
That's my 4th.
4th, yeah. So we had been there a while. So then now we drove back to this, and so this was our spring break too, and it was the beginning of Nevada's spring break. No, actually, it's not our spring break. That's why.
No, our spring break is right now.
Yeah. And so we had to go during prime hotel season. So I was like, we're just going to sleep there. Yeah. We don't need anything fancy, right? So I found a place that didn't look too bad.
I don't know if we want to name the place.
Sure. Yeah. Casino Pass.
Yeah.
Railroad Pass.
Railroad Pass, yeah.
Railroad Pass. It's a travel center and all those things.
Yeah.
But it's right in between Boulder City and Henderson. And like
about
overall,
15 minutes out of Vegas.
Yeah, overall it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't. There was clouds and clouds of smoke.
It stunk. We were supposed to be in a non-smoking room, and our room smelled like cigarette smoke. Yep. The mattress was It felt Motel 6 quality. It was stiff as can be. And,
it was rough.
And their pillows were like bricks.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was fine for what it was and for the night.
Right. But it was cheaper than anything else we could find.
Yeah, that wasn't that cheap. It was like it was 100 and something.
Yeah, give or
a
take.
night. Yeah, and so it's saying something. The food wasn't bad there. It wasn't great, but
yeah. But the main reason we bring this up is because this was the trigger to my week-long battle with my throat.
Yes.
And I think that combination of just having so much smoke hit me all at once.
What was funny about it is because we had already booked to stay in that one again on the way back, and we were seriously contemplating just driving as far as we could and sleep somewhere else.
Anywhere else, yeah. We very much considered that. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Or even spending like $300 a night or $200 to $300 a night in Vegas.
Yeah, it might have been worth it, and I think in the future terms we're just going to plan for that.
Yeah, just budget for it.
That was tough because
it was.
The following day we went on our 7-hour drive, which you had not experienced before. I had experienced once before. Well, technically twice.
You made it out worse than it is. The only issue I had with it was my back. After 10 hours in the car, my back was starting to bother me for the next leg of the trip. And so, yeah, we'll talk about when we got to Reno how I was a grumpy butt.
You were. But, I mean, 7 hours, and it's just really the bleakest.
Yeah, there's nothing out there.
So boring.
Yeah, it's...
And we drive through middle of Texas all the time. You know, like, we're used to bleak and boring.
But this is like, how did you describe it? Up the mountains, down a valley.
Up the hill, down a hill, across a valley.
Yeah.
Up the hill, down a hill, across a valley. Do that for 7 hours.
And the thing is like, later on when you get to Reno itself, like, closer to Reno, it starts opening up. There's like a lake there that is super gorgeous.
Yeah, very pretty.
And then you drive around the curve. Yeah, Tonopah. Oh, man. Tonopah was a nice place. You have random wild donkeys and mountain sheep.
Strange.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was an interesting drive. We had to make it interesting. We listened to a very big podcast ending.
Yep. The final episode of the Dice Tower, number 750. We listened to that on the way over there.
Yeah, and so we also listened to, and this is on the way back, and we'll get more into that, but we also listened to the entire discography of the Beatles, and we had to do it just for that stretch. I got to listen to my audiobook for an extended period.
Yep.
And the one I'm reading is the High Republic Star Wars, so I had a great time listening to it. But yeah, it's a boring drive.
It is.
And then that's also the worst gas prices, too.
Yes, that was the most expensive that we filled up in any of those.
We also saw the Area 51 Alien Center, and we were like, you know what, let's hit that on the way back, just to give us somewhere to stop. But yeah, that was interesting. It was like, that's kind of cool. Then we were trying to find Area 51.
Yeah, we're all looking over the mountains. Like,
is it over there? Is it over there?
Yeah, exactly. That was silly. But yeah, I mean, even like the towns, I say loosely.
Yeah,
there was like a couple trailers at most.
Yeah, there's like almost looks like ghost towns, but there's people living there. One of them had the random donkeys I was talking about. There was like 3 donkeys, and we were like, wait, what? They're just loose, and they have a sign that's talk about like donkey crossing and stuff like that. Yeah. So
it was so random. Apparently, they do really well out there, but
yeah, and then
I didn't know that.
The lake was nice. What was cool for me is you didn't realize how much of them I like birds, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool." There was like kestrels and falcons, different hawks. Right. We saw some water birds as well, like herons and egrets. So it was really cool for me.
Yeah,
lots of ravens.
Yeah, there was a lot of ravens out there. I was just more astonished at the fact that I know you had said that you used to go bird watching, all that stuff, but I just never knew how like into it you were, and you really are.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Yeah, that's totally great. Like I'd probably be the same way if we stopped and looked for geocaches. You know? Same idea. So then we pulled into Reno. We're ready to relax. I had a friend of mine who used to live here in our local town who moved up there, and I thought it'd be a fun little surprise. Like, hey, let's go grab dinner and and not realizing like how much you did not want to get back in the car after a 7-hour drive, which is understandable.
Not just a 7-hour drive, a 10-hour drive before that too.
Right.
And
So
I slept on a rock hard bed with rock hard pillows.
But my excuse was not entirely just an excuse. Like I had a reason because we're gonna be there all week. I don't want to eat at the resort every day. Let's go get something else while we can. And we're not abiding to a schedule. We found a place called Archie's in Reno.
Yeah, they were decent. We talked about the food. It's good. I really like the burger. I had the barbecue bacon burger or something like that, and I added cheese to it. My only complaint, and this is not a big complaint, is that I wish they seasoned the hamburger a little better because all your flavor really came from the barbecue sauce, the onion ring in it, the cheese, as well as the bacon. It didn't have a lot of seasoning in the patty itself. I want a good ratio. But all in all, it was a pretty good place.
Yeah, I enjoyed the meal quite a bit. And what did you think about the Peppermill Casino when you first saw it? Because that's where Gama is hosting. Yeah,
the casino itself was fine. It's just you could tell it's older, and it was all right. The outside of it was very sketch.
Yeah, that's the main street there. It's a little questionable. But, you know.
But the casino itself was really nice. Yeah. The workers were very friendly there.
Absolutely.
Never had problem. We ate a lot in the restaurants in there. We mainly stayed with like 2 restaurants because one of them you wouldn't even go because it's seafood. And I don't really like cooked seafood as well. And so we stayed at 2 of them.
Cafe Milano and
Biscotti's. Both of them were really, really good.
Yeah.
They
Their prices are expensive, but then when you realize how much you get,
food they give you,
it makes sense. It's not for nothing.
Yeah, and then
like I got a $15 quesadilla, which immediately I already hear people gasping through the podcast.
That thing was massive.
It wasn't worth $15 first, but that's at least a $10 quesadilla. Like it was got to be a pound and a half of cheese.
Yeah.
The tortilla was, the size of like a...
Okay, let's just put it this way. It was one tortilla that they folded in half with pretty good cheese, too. Yeah. It was like cheddar and Havarti and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was still bigger than a 2 tortilla quesadilla you can get most places. Yeah. This thing was massive.
It was really big. And so you never went away. We never had a meal and left hungry.
Yeah. In fact, we had to take stuff back sometimes. And not to mention the fact that with Gama, because we were on the retail side, they gave us free lunches too.
Right. And even those were really good. So let's talk. That first night was obviously much better.
Yeah. Other than your like coffee.
Other than my coughing, which, it is what it is.
Yeah.
How about that Monday, the next day?
See, the Monday wasn't that big of an issue. I only did a couple of boards, the seminars there. Monday, I have to say Monday and Thursday were like the chill days. So Monday is the opening ceremony in a sense, and then Thursday is the closing ceremony in sense. Mm-hmm. And so we just did a couple panels. I know we did one about like branding and standing out in conventions and a couple other things, but we also hung out with another board game designer for a little bit as well. And honestly, it was fine. You're like, hey, this is boring these days. It was Tuesday that got me.
Yeah, Tuesday was kind of a longer day.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out to a new friend of mine. I talked with him briefly before the convention, but I'm glad he was able to join. John Wood.
Yeah.
Great designer. I like a lot of his stuff. We played a few of his prototypes. I got to give him a shout out. He made Making Manhattan, which is a button shy game. If you haven't played it yet, it's awesome. Go check it out. He has some great ideas for it too, and
good humor too.
I like the way he thinks. I really do, which is why this publisher that we're both mutually working with told us about each other, and we had talked before. But I'm very glad that I met him in person. I like the guy a lot, and I'm looking forward to working with him and hopefully future projects too.
Yeah, and then we'll mention who you're talking about a little later, just in briefing, because we hung out with them a lot, and they were great guys.
Right. And then we got to meet up with a great friend of the podcast.
Amazing people.
Yeah, Justin DeWitt and Anne-Marie DeWitt, owners of Fireside Games. Now, you had never talked with Anne-Marie before.
No, and then Justin was only through here.
Yeah, and you had talked with Justin. You never met him in real life. I love Justin. I love Anne-Marie. They are 2 of the best, hands down people.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll tell you a nice story about Anne-Marie when we get to the next day.
Yeah. If you have not if you have not supported any publishers or bought any games just because of the people, anything from Fireside Games, whether you like the game or not, you should buy it to support them.
Yeah,
and I mean that because not like they made games that I don't like as much as others, but I will gladly buy copies of it because they are the kind of people that 100% I want to support in every way.
Oh yeah, they're some of the nicest people I met. We talked to them for almost 3 hours. The other reason we had to stop, and you could tell they would have just sit there and talked more. It's just that they had meetings, and so they had to go do this, and they had to get like dinner and stuff like that. But they had meetings, and so but man, we sat there and it didn't even feel like the hour because we met them at like 2 or 3, and then they had to leave at like close to 6, and so we sat there for 2.5 hours just talking. Yeah,
and then time just flew by.
And then you were showing them some of your games this week because they give great pointers and stuff like that, and so you showed them and because how good of people, they help set up meetings for you with other companies,
which is above and beyond. I wasn't even expecting that, but that was really nice of them to help me out just because of the people they knew. They're not giving invitations to go hound them about it.
Yeah.
Because, it's probably for nothing. But
you just because they're friends of the podcast. They've known you for several years because of Gama. They were willing to help you out, and even then they were talking to me like I was an old friend. And towards the end of the thing, they were giving me hugs, and this is the first time I've ever met them. They're some of the nicest people, and I really enjoyed time with them.
Yeah, no, that day was really fantastic.
We also got to meet up with Kurt Covert later in the night at the Smirk and Daggers game. He was showing off the spill in what is that? Behexed or Behexed?
Yeah, which is currently on Kickstarter. I think it's still going right now.
Yeah, so he was talking to us, and we had a really good time with him. We didn't really get to hang out with him as much because he had a lot going on, and he didn't have really a lot of time. But it was nice seeing him and thanking him. Yeah. But that was Monday. It was basically just hanging out with some people, doing a few seminars.
And then we went to the game night that night. Yeah. Oh, another retailer awards. Our local store got nominated for a couple of retailer awards.
We went to the retailer awards
once again,
as well.
Congratulations to Zia Comics.
And that was fun too, interesting, because they offered food for that too. And both you and me were like glad we went somewhere else to eat. Because
that food was okay.
Well, he had the chicken and waffle bites, and he was like, "Ugh." We ate the fruit and the cheese and crackers. That's really all we did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something else. And then we went to that game night, and then my voice was already cutting out just a little bit.
And this one was the quieter of all the game nights. We went to every game night, but a couple of them we just walked around. We'll talk about like Tuesday's game night when we get to it. But
let's jump ahead. That first night, with much better beds. I do quite like the rooms in the Peppermill.
Their pillows were great. They were just super squishy, so I had to keep piling my pillows on top of each other.
Right, but they gave us pillows upon pillows
there
upon pillows.
There were 6 pillows on my bed, and then there was like 2 extras pillows in our closet.
Yep. Yeah, it was. You're not going to go pillowless.
It was ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure they got a really good deal from their wholesaler because
that was a lot of pillows.
That was something else. They can make a cloud factor with how many pillows they were. The entire species of birds went extinct for those pillows.
Enough pillows on that bed that you could lay them on the mattress and have a whole new mattress.
That's true. Yeah, make a pillow top right off the bat.
Exactly.
So day number 2, this is one of the big ones as far as the seminar goes. They have a couple panels for retailers in the day and earlier in the day. But really, the premier presentations are where it's all at.
And we'll get more into the premier presentations about like the games that they announce and stuff like that towards the back end of it. Because we don't want to spoil too much because we got our anticipated games list next week.
Right, so we'll talk about the ones you and I split up for a little bit of it. Where each one, there's probably like 40 presenters total of different companies talking about that. And
they also need to, and I have one gripe about it, they need to basically say what the presentation is, because you're the ones that were thinking, okay, we're going to go to the premiere presentation. No, it's about how they could help your store and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was a few that were.
There was one where it's like, oh, we've already announced our games at this presentation. This one specifically for RPGs, and it's like, why don't you put that in the thing?
Yeah, exactly. And also, Asmodee had an earlier in the day presentation that a lot of people didn't notice because it wasn't in the book. It was in just the app, which, by the way, I did like the app. I thought they did a good job with it.
The app was fine, except for Tuesday. when I couldn't log into it, and it took
Right.
forever, and it wasn't just me. There was like half the people that couldn't log into it.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll go into like more of what they talked about, but let's actually break down that Tuesday schedule.
Yeah.
Because
Of course, we did Asmodee,
Yep.
which took up most of the morning, so we only were able to hit.
and which one was the first one you went to?
I went to the Op.
Yeah.
The Op was the first one I went to.
Tell us a little bit about the op.
All right, so the Op made a lot of announcements, and I got the notes here for it. They have a lot of licenses now. Some of the highlights that they had, surprisingly, their 2021 bestsellers were Telestrations. Another 25 words or less or something like that.
Yeah.
It's based on a
game show.
daytime TV game show. And then Smash Up Marvel, of course. Anything Marvel is like gold. But they did announce several games here. Go ahead and get into it, because we're going to talk about Asmodee probably towards the end, because there's so much information with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So in 2022, they announced they are doing Disney Smash Up. Shocking. But I'm actually intrigued, because, you have like the Elsa hook it up with like the Ghost or something like that from the. It's all integrated, so the Marvel Smash Up can integrate with the Disney Smash Up as well as the other Smash Up expansions, which I have right down there.
Yep.
My favorite announcement that they made, and I don't need another Munchkin game, but this is the perfect blending of a theme on Munchkin, and it's South Park.
Yeah.
And I am probably going to end up buying it. I probably won't play it as much. Oh, sorry. It's just that it's a perfect mashup.
It really was.
They have Marvel Dice Rounds. If retail-wise, they're going to sell a 4-pack set and 2 2-pack sets, I believe. For those who didn't get the Kickstarter, you still can get it in retail. They have a really cool party game announcement that you and me were talking about. It's called Venn. It's about Venn diagrams. And so it's kind of Mysterium-esque, where you're trying to get your teammate to guess the 3 words that are in the Venn diagram by playing pictures out onto those. So this word is best related here, and then you can play another one within that 2 section. It goes here, and then one word that's related here. And so the example that they gave us later in the game night was like, okay, this has a child, and this has a shark, and a child and a shark here, and a child and a baby panda over here. So this is probably young, and this is aggressive, and then this side is probably that. And you're playing all that, and you're trying to beat the other team, get the points, as many points as you can. And it looked interesting. The one game I didn't get to play, because it was hot on that table, and you could never really get into a game of it.
Sorcerer's Apprentice?
No.
Oh.
Mountains out of Molehills.
Oh, yeah, that's
that
right.
one looks so
that was a
good.
really hot game.
And from what I could see, it looks like a simple game. You're basically drafting movement cards. You're playing at the bottom. You're playing the moles, and you're moving them around. And they're digging up mountains out of their molehills. And you're trying to score them. So whoever has control of the molehill, and it's not like most people, it's like always at the top, who's ever on the top. No, this one's at the bottom because you're moles and digging the dirt up. So whoever's at the bottom has controls, and you score points for how big it is. But there's also rules about how high they can be, or if they topple, and they have different things you can do. And it looks very abstracted, but really interesting, and it's so different. But we also noticed, and I haven't mentioned more other games, there's a lot of double layer games coming out. There's this one that we found, another one from like Inside Gaming.
Yeah, Inside Up game.
Yeah.
Block and Key, I want to say that's the name of it, but I'm probably wrong. That one looks really neat, though.
Yeah, it looks really good. Also, the Avatar the Rising is getting another thing.
Yep.
This one, Avatar Fire Nation Rising. There is a Harry Potter game that's going to be based in Diagon Alley. It's called Mischief in Diagon Alley. It's a card game. I didn't really get too much information about it because they weren't showing it there. They just announced it.
Yeah.
They have some Hasbro lines. We don't really talk too much about Hasbro, but there's like Kool-Aid Jenga coming out.
Which is pretty cool.
Several Monopolies and Clues, so you got something for everyone. There's 3 main Yahtzee ones I do want to talk about. You got Naruto, so it's a ramen bowl, because he's always eating ramen.
Yep.
You have a Hocus Pocus Yahtzee coming out, and it comes in a cauldron.
Yeah.
But my personal favorite is the D&D Yahtzee, because they give you a dice tower.
Yes, which is really a great component.
Also, they just talked about like dice trays and accessories that are coming out. Like they have a couple D20s that are coming out, like Kool-Aid and Spider-Man, as well as premium dice for. You're gonna get Wakanda Forever, Haunted Mansion, or Dragon Prince for those people familiar with the show on Netflix. They have some Spot-Its. If you want to get Spot-It, they were saying that this is your best chance to do it. Because realistically, with the way shipping prices are and how cheap it is to really print them out, they're not going to be printing them as much.
Yeah.
So,
which makes sense.
The new ones they have is Care Bears, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Rudolph. And honestly, what I liked about it, and even though I've almost beat the game, I have a couple more on the expansions, is they're finally giving you a Harry Potter Hogwarts battle playmat.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks good too. It looks like the board, but oh man, it's just like I only have two or three more scenarios to play.
So you're probably not going to get it.
I'm thinking about it because I love that game enough that I bought all the sleeves to protect the cards. So
right, exactly.
I could probably bust it out somewhere down the line.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, that's That's what I went and saw.
And so the next one that we saw after our lunch break was Pandasaurus.
Yeah.
You and I both went to that one. Pandasaurus came out with a lot of announcements of stuff that they already have out, like Trek 12. It's like a roll and write.
Looks interesting.
Press your luck. It looks really fun. It's kind of campaign based too, which is really cool. There was Skull Canyon, which is kind of like this skiing game that they're really promoting right now. I don't know much about it, but it does look really great. Sobek, the 2-player version, and you had a chance to look at it like briefly at the.
So good looking.
Yep, I have played the original Sobek.
This one is gorgeous though.
It looks really fun, and I like the shifting around. And then they announced a game called Nacho Pile, which is from one of the designers of Happy Salmon, which I believe is Ken Gruel, if I remember correctly. But basically, you're pulling like these plastic chips and like triangular Dorito style chips. Nacho Pile looks like the classic Doritos bag.
Yeah,
and they're actually manufacturing it to be in a resealable like bag.
It makes sense, but
right. Yeah, it's interesting. But it does look cool though. It's kind of like a bidding game. And then Roller Coaster Rush, which is a remake of from what it looks like a remake of their older game called Roller Coaster Park or Coaster Park.
Yeah, it's not a remake, but more of we got to fix that boo boo.
Yeah, because I used to own Coaster Park, and I really loved the idea. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're bidding on these different tracks, and you build a 3D coaster. And they were trying to do it out of cardboard, and you rolled the marble down, and as long as the marble can stay physically on the track, they score you for the points. Whereas in Coaster Park, it was just constantly flawed, just the way it works. So they're doing it with plastic pieces now, which is good. Foxzilla. Foxzilla, sorry.
Or Fozilla, I think is how it's pronounced. Yeah. It's the expansion for the Loop.
For the Loop, yeah. I don't know much about the Loop. Do you want to talk about that one?
So the Loop is a co-op game where you're playing against Dr. Faux, and Faux. And he's going around time with his clones, I guess you can say. They're the other foes. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to, bring chaos to the timeline and, win. So your goal is you're going to go through the different timelines. I think it's like 6 of them or 8 of them, I think, because you got to get 4 of the 8 or 4 of the 6, something like that. It's been a while. I've only played the one game, but it's phenomenal. You've got some card play, but you have like this ability where you can go back in time or cards nearby, so you can go in the future, right, stuff like that, to borrow at time. But this to prevent them, you have to complete a certain amount of objectives to do it, and there's several objectives in the game, so it's variable setup, and this one is just adding more, and they have a cube tower that basically is going to determine what's going to happen. So if certain cubes go on an objective, you lose that objective. If you lose 3 objectives, you lose flat out, or if you lose that objective twice. So if it's already got a temporal agency or something like that in it, and another one goes in, you lose. So it's either 3 altogether or 2 of the same.
Gotcha.
And
that's
so
cool.
it plays really well. It has some fun aspects of it. And you're basically a time agency trying to prevent these temporal loops that he's doing. But this is an expansion, big box expansion from what it looked like.
Yeah,
and
it did.
It just adds more scenarios and some more tougher play, but it looked really good.
Very cool. And the other ones, they talked about Skate Summer, which is a skateboarding themed game, which I love how they don't stick with normal themes.
Yeah.
I was a big Tony Hawk's Pro Skater fan.
I love that game.
And I could skateboard and stuff
I
from back in the day. My daughter's currently learning how to skateboard,
My
maybe.
big butt stayed off boards because, yeah, I hurt myself every single time.
Well, that's a good reason. You and balance are...
Yeah, not too well. Well, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that soon. Wild Style, which is like a real-time graffiti game, which is really intriguing. And then finally talked about the Wolves, which they said was an Essen release, and they didn't really say much from there.
Other than that, it's a spatial puzzle, as well as it has like a really cool action selection mechanism, but they didn't go into too much detail. Exactly. They even had like a in-place or box cover just for that announcement.
Yep. Cool. All right.
All right.
The next one we went to?
WizKids, which was the one we were talking about where I literally like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, so that was a problem. We both showed up, and then they said, hey, just so everybody knows, this is not about the board game side of it. This is specifically about the miniatures, which I did stick around. They're for those of you guys who do miniatures, and especially with WizKids, they're selling more introductory pieces, which are kind of like, I forget the term of them, but they're all printed on a single sheet of plastic.
Yeah.
And you take an X-Acto knife to them. I've seen these before, and I've handled them. They are pretty good quality, and they seem like a really decent price point for it, instead of like the normal miniatures that you're used to with
I was smart and left because I had to get us a seat for the next one.
Right, which unfortunately, yeah, there was a lot of people who after they had sat down, they're like, oh, wow, this is... Because it was a packed room.
It was.
And
as WizKids, they have really good stuff.
Right. The quality on their stuff is great, but unfortunately, it wasn't about the board games, so that's, everything that they have as far as their normal... lines, they're releasing more of it. If you're already familiar with their lines, you know what you're looking for.
Miniatures too. They were talking about their RPGs as well.
Yeah, RPGs and whatnot. Yeah, which is good that they're branching into that as well.
Yeah,
but once again, if you already are familiar with those lines, you're gonna know that that's more of what they're doing. So, fortunately, we didn't pay much attention to that. However, our next one,
we paid a lot of attention to. I went to the op with your boss from Zia Comics.
Right.
And all three of us were in this one because this was a big one. This is Funkoverse.
Yeah, a Funko
Games. Yeah. Funko Games. And now it didn't look like they announced a lot of stuff, but they did stuff that was already announced. So, I think Battle World Volume 3, I think it was for WizKids, but...
Yeah.
They did announce in Funkoverse, the Peter Pan and Universal Monsters, which was already announced. You've talked about them. I don't know if in the podcast, but... No, we did, because you were talking about, so you're going to finally play it with me? They looked really good. We got to see them.
Yes, they look fantastic.
Really good.
All black and white carton. Looks really good. The pieces, do you have... Now they're introducing chase
boxes,
which are just kind of like specialized, like 1 in 4 boxes. If a store orders a case, then one of them for sure is going to be one.
And then so the for the Universal Monster movie is the Invisible Man is like clear.
It'll actually be a transparent piece. Yes.
And so also they announced Peter Pan. They announced the expansion for Goonies that everybody knew what was coming in. What is it? Goonies Never Say Die. I forget what the expansion's called, but it's introducing the teenagers. And the villain in that one, I think, is the kid, the teenager kid, the one that tries to run the other guy off the road with the bike.
That's right.
We did get a look at a cool game that both of us are really intrigued with because of what it is. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window.
That's right. And this is a movie that my dad was a big fan of. And they got the actual license, like they have the actors' likenesses.
And they even said it's a cross between Mysterium and Mastermind, where you have basically a dungeon master who's behind a shade, and he's trying to lead it. If there's a murder, then he's playing against the players, but if there's not a murder, it's full co-op.
Right.
And so he's setting things up like in Mysterium, where you're setting up the field and trying to clue into people, and then the players have to guess what's going on, who the murderer is. It was, and Ithri is saying, I get they're the movie IP board game guys, but literally, who asked for this? Honestly, I looked at the game. It doesn't look bad.
I think what they're trying to go for is that, of course, they have the stuff that they really want, that based on Funko that they have to do, right?
Yeah, because they have all these licenses.
Right, and it makes sense for them to do it. But having access to all this, they probably weren't ever asked for that. But here's the thing: they've done Rocketeer.
Yep.
I mean, the Warriors doesn't immediately make
the
sense.
Warriors is
either.
1977 or something like that.
So why not keep going back?
Yeah.
Eventually there'll be some silent films, which I bet with all would be pretty good.
Honestly, I want someone to bring Nosferatu.
Which, yeah, right? But let's talk about the movie IP that I'm most excited for from Funkoverse.
The one that's on Kickstarter right now?
No.
Which one?
No. Goofy movie.
That's right. I didn't put that on here.
I'm so excited about Goofy movie. And they said that, it's probably easy for like a 7-year-old to play.
Yeah.
Where you're all Max's friends trying to race to get the best seats at a concert. It's a really simple game as how it works. Like he was describing it, was like it's kind of like a cross between Ticket to Ride and then he kind of stopped explaining it. So now I don't know what to expect with this game. But we saw the die that came with it.
Oh,
and
the dies look really
gorgeous
cool.
Orange.
The minis look really good too, and I don't think it's going to be.
Good.
I think it's going to be their normal price point, about $30 to $40, something like that.
But one thing that they made it interesting is that they made a series of games because it's Disney's 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
For the Disney parks, and so they did Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah,
and
there's
they did
that
a
one.
couple others that
they did
I forget off the top of my
like
head.
some card games for Star Wars, but also there's like another like a different type of Disney theme on it as well.
Exactly. So there's a lot of ones that they're really kind of playing into it. So yeah, people probably didn't ask for it, but at the same time, people really know how to play off of that nostalgia.
Honestly, nobody wanted a Pan Am game. They made that. So.
Yeah, but I don't disagree, E3. That is absolutely like, who would ask for a Rear Window game? But it's such an interesting, different movie that I think works.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're bringing some of the older movies out, like Rear Window and stuff like that.
Instead of like all the same, like, it's another Marvel game.
Or another Godfather.
Godfather. Yeah, right.
They're giving us something different, and which I like. But let's talk about something that isn't different. There's been a couple games on it. You can see them like in skirmishers and stuff like that. Yeah. On Kickstarter as of right now, which is the 22nd of March, just went today, just funded. And it's probably one of their most expensive games. But
yes.
I looked at some of the pieces. They didn't go into too much depth because it's a legacy game.
Yeah.
It is Jurassic Park, the Legacy of Isla Nublar.
That's right.
And you're basically playing the game from the first movie all the way to what's going on. There's legacy aspects of it, so things are changing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I backed it. It looks really good.
I'm gonna have to. I didn't realize it was on today.
Yeah, it went today.
All right. Well, you go ahead and keep talking. I'm gonna take care.
No, it looks good. The pieces look great. They only showed 4 pieces, and it's like, I guess, the 4 starting pieces that you can see in the game.
And I love their video that they showed during the presentation. They're like, well, it's going to start with this, and this one. But we also have, and they censored everything. Like, it was like saying hilarious. The worst profanity. It was so hilarious.
It was a good one. It looks really good. It's big. It's also, it's because normally Prospero Hall and Funko games, they're about a $30 to $40 price range. This one is basically triple that, but they're also giving you triple the amount of stuff in the games they normally do. So,
and we've had other people vouch that have played on the prototype itself, and they said that this is their favorite.
One of the people there, I think his name was Adam.
Yeah,
he was even saying like, he's not even done with it, and he doesn't want to finish it because he's enjoying the mess out of it. And I know it's probably his sell pitch as well, but from everybody who's played it, said, no, this is really, really good.
That's right.
And I honestly, there's only one Prospero Hall game that I haven't liked, and it's one of the earlier ones. So I'm thinking they're really hitting their stride.
That's right, and especially now.
Yeah.
Now that they have all these licenses, it feels like it's just a great place for them. Mm-hmm. So that was Funkoverse.
Or Funko games.
I did. Now, the one that we were planning on going to, unfortunately got canceled after that. It was the AEG one. Not sure why it didn't. But, so you and I split up. You ended up going to which one?
I went to Renegade.
You went to Renegade. So tell us about Renegade, and I'll tell about Luma.
You go ahead with Luma first, because I have about 3 pages of notes.
Okay. So Luma, it was a weird seminar. It was a very weird seminar because
there was a riot almost.
There was some upset because once again, this is an industry only event. Mm-hmm. So really, the thing that you have to keep in mind is that it's retailers, publishers, distributors, stuff like that. People who are in there, not just consumers.
There's some designers and some media, but
Yeah,
that's it. It's not open to public.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably could get in there if you really tried, but the thing is, like, it's not intended for that. You're going to see a lot of logistics that just aren't that interesting for that. It's not like a whole, like, it's not like a Gen Con or an Origins.
Yeah.
But
Hardly any gaming.
Luma, they handled a lot of imports from a lot of European smaller publishers.
Yeah.
Like something that Asmodee would do, something that
something Asmodee is doing.
Is doing, right? But like, there's a lot of distributors here in the United States that
or Rio Grande Games.
Yeah, they used to import a lot over, and so the very first thing that they brought up, they're like, so they had Luma Imports acquired another distribution company called Flat River Games, which, if you're not in the industry, you probably have never heard of them. But long story short,
most game stores don't like Flat River Games.
Most game stores don't like Flat River Games because a lot of their distribution and a lot of their deals go almost exclusively through online stores or Amazon mainly. Mm-hmm. And so they undercut friendly local game stores quite a bit. And so this was something that they had to bring up. And the person who was in charge of Luma Imports did his best to explain this, and there was a representative from Flat River Games there as well as the head of Greater Than Games, who prints Sentinels of the Multiverse, and a few other people like that are also involved, and they were explaining how important this is because, their main goal is to have enough stock so that way you wouldn't have to allocate some to Amazon and then some to stores and then who gets priority and all that and making that difficult decision. Their perspective was more like, no, we want to order enough so we don't have to allocate at all.
Yeah.
There should always be stock in. So if you want stock, you can get stock. And I felt like genuinely that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
However, Flat River Group, which they're also, by the way, distributing Yellow games.
Oh, okay.
Which they did announce that they are going to make a big announcement later in the year for
the new distribution partnership
for Yellow and King of Tokyo announcements, and they're bringing back OP kits as well. So that's cool. But the thing is, like, there was a lot of retailers at that presentation who did not realize this and have had, I guess, been done dirty basically by Flat River Group.
Yeah.
And them not being allocated stock or couldn't sell games for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how hard that there was, like, look, like, we just want to make sure that if you have stock, we want to be able to get it. Mm-hmm. And one retailer, I forget her name, she was really nice, but she even said, she was like, look, you, Greater Than Games, I pre-ordered this stock over a year ago. I still haven't gotten it. Like, you're telling me that it's available? This is why. And when it was going up and going for discount on Amazon, like, what can how should we feel? Like, that doesn't feel like you support us at all.
Yeah.
And the owner of Greater Than Games, I saw him apologize later, and they had that difficult discussion, but they're like, look, like, we don't know what happened then, but now everything should be better. So who knows? Honestly, like, this.
The
is
problem
more
with that is that if you burn the bridge, you're not going to get the support from the FLGSs.
Right, exactly, and that's where you're going to get your demos. That's where you're going to get,
Amazon's great for sales, but it's only for like the really hardcore gamers if they want to try something. But for FLGSs and trying to get people off the street, your goal, FLGS is the best thing to do because what you just mentioned, the demos.
Yeah. Someone
can teach you the game without you having to learn the rule book, because there are some rule books that are not really good or very intimidating for people who are off the street. Case in point, one game we both really like, Juicy Fruits.
Yeah.
And it is not a menacing rule book, but it's not easy.
It took us price point.
Yeah, it also took us longer to read the rule book than play the game.
Right.
And so it's just, you need those demos.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are going to where, hey, just look online, you can do that, but it doesn't teach you as well.
Right.
So
long story short, from a retailer's perspective, that was a very uncomfortable panel, but I'm glad that they weren't allowed to give numbers like percentages or profit margins, which makes sense. That's fine. I get that. But when everybody kind of like rose up, they're like, we get that this is good for you as a company, as a publisher, but how is it good for us as a store?
Yeah.
And they couldn't give an answer for that. That was really different. But who knows? Since they're going to be distributing yellow, I know yellow's always popular in our stores.
Yeah.
But maybe it might not be anymore. We'll have to just wait
or
and
if
see.
stores will not carry yellow anymore, so that could hurt them as a company too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and more specifically, Flat River Group does a lot of big box stores like Walmart. And,
Yeah, another thing too that FLGS has had problems with, because a lot of times going through the seminars, they were asking questions: Are this going to Target and Walmart first, or are we going to be able to get it right away, or do we have to wait?
Because some stores, if there's like, oh, well, you have 6 months exclusive rights to this at Target. Nah, what's the point of us even selling?
Why are we having it? Because they've already been sold to our local area. So
exactly.
So I went to Renegade while you were there and watching that fun. Right. And I have to say one thing about Renegade is they're going all in onto their IPs. They have 3 major IPs. They're all basically the same thing, apparently. So you have the Power Rangers Power the Grid system that they're using. They announced a new expansion for it, Light and Darkness, which is around May for stores to get. They also announced a villain pack number 5 called Terror Through Time, as well as a Zordon dice tower. So it's actually a dice tower that people have been asking for, and it's Zordon because Power Rangers. You're probably not familiar too much with the IP, are you?
Oh yeah, I loved Power Rangers. I didn't watch past much of the
the original series. I didn't watch much past it, but yeah. So they're talking about all that. The dice tower can be used both for the board game and the RPG because they're going heavy in the RPGs as well. It is unassembled and unpainted, so this way the people that want to paint it and stuff like that. And they showed a picture of it with someone who painted it. It looked really good. And so they announced that they're also doing a G.I. Joe. It's called Mission Critical. That's also based on the Power Grid system, or the Power of the Grid system, which means this one, as well as the Transformers, if it's got that, or the My Little Pony, when they get into that system, they're all interchangeable. So
that makes sense.
You can use them anyways. So they did announce one for G.I. Joe. It's called Mission Critical. It's based on the Guardian system. That's what it is that the Power Rangers use. Let's see. Did they announce one for... I think there's one for the Transformers. I can't remember about that Guardian system. But they created these Guardian systems for their IPs. This way they can interchange them.
Gotcha.
They also announced a deck building game for Power Rangers, or an expansion for it, Omega Forever. It's competitive or teams, PvP or teams. Some small box stuff, gears. They've also announced a role-playing game, which I'll go more in when I get to the other stuff. They also announced a deck builder for G.I. Joe. They also announced a deck builder for Transformers. So yeah, the deck builder for G.I. Joe. The deck builders are not interchangeable because they're different systems. The Power Rangers is a team versus team situation. G.I. Joe is a full co-op, 1 to 5 players. They've also announced 3 expansions for that one. It's called Shadow a Suspect, Cold Snap, and Snow. Those are the 3 expansions. Transformers is a co-op / combat one. So depending on whichever one you're going to play. Because they're announcing an expansion to play as the Decepticons called Rising Darkness. There are standalones as well, so you can get either or. My Little Pony is getting a co-op deck builder for, our bronies out there and stuff like that. So, but all of that said, we'll get into the role-playing game. They announced role-playing games for each one of those IPs.
Wow.
That are interchangeable. So if you want to bring your Transformer character over to Power Rangers, you can.
That's so bizarre, isn't it?
It really is.
Like, can you imagine
now,
My Little Ponies versus,
the thing
Power
is,
Rangers?
they have crossed over in the comics. That's why Renegade's doing it, because I think Transformers and My Little Pony have crossed over. And G.I. Joe and Transformers have crossed over too. So they're saying there's going to be like 1 to 4 RPGs for 1 of 4 books or something like that for the not the G.I. Joes, the Power Rangers. It's about $55 MSRP. It's a hardcover and in full color.
Yeah, and then I3 brought up the idea that he was worried that My Little Pony Tabletop RPG was for an interchangeable system, but at least the deck build is exciting. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the deck builder, there's a reason it's that popular.
Yeah, and it's interesting what they're doing for like their IPs.
And the Power Ranger Collector's Editions having the color-coded books. That's really cool.
Yeah, so they have GM screens for each of the 4 series for the Power Rangers. They're also selling 6 different dice sets around $15 each because, Power Ranger fans want to have the specific color that they're going to use. So they're going to use like the blue, the black, the reds, all that. As well as dice bag. They're also giving character journals, which is basically a very extended character sheet.
Yeah.
It's about 40 pages. This way you could do the complete development of your character, and it's 40 pages apparently. They're also doing hero miniature sets for all of their RPGs. Create Your Own Joe for the G.I. Joes, Transformers as well, My Little Pony. And finally, after we do all of that stuff, all the things I announced for the Power Rangers is pretty much for all the RPGs. They're also doing their World of Darkness RPGs, the Hunter Reckoning, which is going to be the 5th edition, which is their storyteller system. They're going to get Vampire the Masquerade, which is going to be in the storyteller system as well. And so, as well as the Rivals, the expandable card game, they're going to add more expansions to it, and they're going to restart up organized play for that. So those who are into that sort of that system, you're more than happy to get more stuff for it.
Cool.
Some actual board game news that they announced outside of IPs is that they are going to be distributing Crusaders Thy Will Be Done expansion as well as they have the rights for it. So they're going to be reissuing the
expansions.
Oh, not just the expansions, the base game.
Yes, the base game, which is awesome because that game, first off, I thank you, Renegade, for picking that up because I absolutely love that game. It is awesome. And it was from Tasty Minstrel, which unfortunately is defunct now. But I mean, they picked up Trajan to print here in the country too, so thankfully they see a good quality board game when they're doing something that's not IP.
As well as the Divine Influences Pack is what the expansion is going to be called, and it has 4 new building types. That's all I really can get the gist of.
Yeah.
They're re-releasing Circadian First Light. They're changing it up. They're giving an art and icon update, as well as there's going to be a standalone expansion or an expansion for it called Chaos Order, where it adds asymmetry to the characters.
That's cool.
They're, of course, if you're in the Shim Phillips Kickstarter, they're going to be distributing Architects of the West Kingdom, the expansion, and all that stuff. They're also going to reissue Recklin Run, which was the one that was just on Kickstarter, the solo play. There's also going to be an expansion for another one of their solo play games, Warp's Edge.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's see, Crimes and Capers, and The Winner is Dead, co-op, 4 to 6 players, they announced. Mm-hmm. They announced a standalone expansion for Fuse called Fuse Countdown. So that's interesting. They are going to be reprinting Dead Men Tells No Tells and the expansions. They are not going to expand Search for Flannic X because the designer is like, this is as good as I think it should be, but they are going to announce a new game in that system. It's called Search for the Lost Species. So you're basically trying to find the lost species of a thing. It's got a new map, which is going to be intriguing.
I didn't know about this. That's really cool.
They announced the game called Birdwatcher.
I saw that. Birdwatcher.
I don't know too much about it.
You're going to get it, though.
Yeah, probably. And then The Hunger, a Richard Garfield deck builder take on Clank, where you're basically racing, trying to get a flower and get as many points. And your deck if you bog down your deck, you're not going to be able to get in place fast enough.
Right. I remember a lot of the victory. This intrigues me when I heard about it because one of the big reasons I like Dominion as a deck builder is you have to get your victory points and they start clogging up your deck.
Yeah.
Eating villagers or whatever.
It clogs up your deck because you're not going to be able to move fast enough. Yeah,
I love that.
And what's intriguing about this too is that they announced an expansion for it already, and it just came out last year, end of last year.
Right.
Which adds an event deck.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I own The Hunger. We haven't played it yet, but I want to get it to the table.
We will.
But that's pretty much everything from Renegade Games.
Yeah, Renegade, man. Talk about hitting the ground running, right?
Yeah.
The next one I visited was Foam Brain Games. And so, they don't really produce games. They produce game accessories, but they are pretty much they're not the highest quality. They're very high quality. I don't want to downplay them.
I was supposed to go to Games Workshop, but their one was about just helping new stores. Zia's already an established store,
Right.
so I decided to leave, go take care of some business elsewhere, and then come back and save us a seat for Ravensburger because that thing was packed.
That's right. Well, Foam Brain, they announced a lot of really cool stuff. They were talking about their hollow metal dice, which is completely hollow on the inside, and you can see through it. Yeah, they look gorgeous. They do a thing called resin inclusion dice, which is they have like little mini toys that they actually include and put into the dice. So you have everything from like mushrooms
Little hamburgers.
and spiders to like country flags and hamburgers and French fries and just absolute absurd stuff. I've always wanted their little rubber ducky dice, and those are
You
awesome.
would.
Of course, I would love that.
Kind of what the hamburger one.
The
flag ones were cool too.
The flag ones were really great. Yeah, I love the fact that they're doing that. They're very pro LGBTQ plus, like all of that. So they'll have like pride flags. They have a lot of different dice sets that promote stuff like that. They were known originally for their enamel pins. Now they're bringing out even more, and they still do that. They're doing a thing called mystery loot, which are basically sets of polyhedral dice that you can buy, and you're going to get a random one, which will also include like a metal die, or depending on a letter, it might be a full metal set, which is pretty cool. And those are different price points as well. Their dice for all line is the pride stuff I was telling you about.
I just want to make a quick mention. I was getting tired because my notes aren't as good as.
Right, exactly. They now do custom. Custom packaging, custom pins, all those stuff. But one of the best things, the guy who owns it, he's one of the funniest people. I love the way he presents. And he said that he was like every year they always do something where, the retailers go in there, they place their order for him, and then the retailers always get so upset because they announce something brand new at the show and they had just placed their order.
So if you guys are picking that up, my dog's barking at something. My window's like right there, and so she's out there barking at the gate.
Yeah.
So
no worries.
just sorry about that.
But yeah, they said they're like, we always feel bad because every year we, all of our retailers will place a big massive order, then we announce something brand new, and this is our second presentation. So sure enough, our last presentation we did that. So we thought it wouldn't be fair for you guys to do it. So we're going to announce a brand new item that the last presentation didn't get to see. And I love how they did that. They were like, well, we messed them over. We might as well mess you over too.
Yeah.
And then so they announced Dice 51, which is their alien spacecraft themed dice sets.
Of course.
Which are so cool shaped. They're all alien based.
We saw them at their booth, didn't we? Uh-huh. Yeah. They look cool.
They are gorgeous. And then they are also going to do their Lost Home of Monsters, which is another mystery loot one that's all themed based on different monsters or
this is going to be
Cthulhian
a long podcast.
lore.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, Cthulhian lore. And they're going to do a Kickstarter for that in April. So look out for that.
Yeah, and so we went over to Ravensburger next because we're going to try to get through these because we still got a lot to go.
I say we split this into 2 episodes. We'll stop after the premiere presentations.
All right, sounds good. And then I'll release them in the same week. So one will go up on Thursday and the other go on Friday.
Something like that.
So Ravensburger, we went to that one as well. And what's interesting about it, it was so popular that they said they were going to move it to one room and ended up turning it into a different room. So I got a chair at both rooms, and so did your boss. What's funny
I had to sit on the floor.
He had to sit on the floor because he went to the proper room while I followed the crowd.
Yeah, because they said, they're like, all right, everybody go to room 6.
No, it was 3-4. And
something like that. Yeah, and I ended up going to the one that they verbally said, which was the wrong room, and then he followed the crowd of everybody going into the room that they didn't say, which was going to be the correct room. That was shenanigans. But, it is what it is.
Oh, but man, they had some really good stuff. Let's get out the Spider-Man, Spidey Amazing Friends. It's a Labyrinth Junior game.
Yep.
I found it, it's like almost a Spot It type game.
Yeah, it's like a long map, and or like a Where's Waldo thing, or a Spot It, yeah.
The Disney one is a 6-foot version. It's a travel version as well, which is just basically the I Spotted Disney card game. They also have a Marvel one version of it, but that's going to be a 2x2 grid compared to the 6-foot long map. This one is going to have a dice tower apparently in it, as well as a mobile version,
which is cool.
They also announced Funny Bunny. I don't remember too much about that.
I remember Funny Bunny. So it's all included in like one plastic board, and the board has different kinds of like contraptions built into it. Where basically, you roll a die, you go to a certain spot on this tower that's building upward, and then eventually sometimes you have to twist the carrot, which triggers only certain traps on the thing. So like one might make them fall.
Oh yeah, it's like a.
It's kind of like a Fireball Island in a way, but it looks like more kid-based. It looks silly, honestly. Like, there's ones that'll kick you off. There's ones that'll spit, like, fire at you.
Yeah, or you fall down a hole. Like, you go into place and it just boom.
Yeah, it looks so silly. I'm intrigued by it. Looks great for kids.
They also announced for retail stores, your friendly local game stores, Horrified American Monsters is going to start hitting them.
That's right.
So the exclusive is no longer in place. But mind you, Lexi B just won a copy of it.
That's right.
As well as Disney Villainous Labyrinth, which is another version of Labyrinth.
Right. Which, have you played Labyrinth?
A long time ago. It's a roll and move game, so...
No, it's not.
It's a
puzzle.
It's the puzzle one. Yeah. So... They also announced Echoes, which is their audio mystery game.
Well, the newest one, the Microchip.
Microchip, yeah. They have the 2 other versions out there?
Yeah, they have the Dancer and the Cocktail. I have played the Dancer. I like it a lot.
Okay.
I think it's a great price point, and it's like $10 retail or something like that, or maybe like up to $12, but it has pretty good cards, and it doesn't have like QR codes on it, but the app is able to pick out the shape of whatever you're scanning and know what item it is, and it'll play you like a really well-made audio version of it. It's super neat.
They also announced a Phil Walker Harding game that we already knew about, but we really want to play, and this is The Explorers. It's a flip and write game. Intriguing about this one is that it's kind of like Trails of Tucana meet other flip and write, or like cartographers. You're basically exploring a new world. You flip I think it's a tile, honestly, and you have to choose which the active player has to choose which tile terrain that they want.
Right. Say it's either blue or brown. Right?
Yeah, so desert or water. So whatever one you choose, you can mark 3 blocks off because you're trying to meet certain areas and stuff like that to get bonus points and modifiers and stuff like that. However, every other player can choose the other one that you didn't do. So the water, they can choose 3 of those. Or if they want to, they can take the same one you did, but they can only mark off 2.
Right.
And I think that's kind of intriguing. We really need to get into it. I do have a copy of it, thank God.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
We've also talked about that this is one of the games in running we're thinking about doing for a next giveaway.
Right. Absolutely.
Because we're Phil Walker Harding's fans. We might as well give away a Phil Walker Harding game.
That's right. Absolutely.
This one's intriguing. You want to tell that one?
Yeah, that was next on my list. It's kind of like a flip and write or a roll and write from Richard Garfield. It's called Dungeons, Dice, and Danger. And what's really this has nothing to do with the gameplay, but the strangest part about it is that it's in an Alea small box, which used to have Alea boxes used to have like a picture that would wrap around and look like a bookend.
Yeah.
And I remember that specifically. And this one has more of like Trails or the new Castle of Burgundy, Castle of Tuscany, really pretty like Carpe Diem, like one tone and stuff on it. But it's numbered 1 in a series, and I don't know why, because
I know that drove you insane.
It stresses me out so bad. It's like, why is this numbered 1? Because you've had other games in this like level number 1 of what?
And it's funny because they even announced it as their next Alea game, and it's like,
yeah, their next Alea, number 1, next Alea. But and it very much has fantasy style art, some non-traditional. It's not the bleak Euro game that you're used to.
It's a flip and write or roll and write. I can't remember exactly, and it's basically a dungeon crawl flip and write. It looks intriguing. I do want to try it. I'm probably going to pick up a couple because I like flip and roll and write. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Another one I want to get is it used to be called Let's Get a Bus Route, but On Board, I think is what it's called.
Yep, from Yellow.
Yeah. So my next on my list here is the bigger and better expansion for Disney
Yes.
Villainous is finally going into retail stores. I do have to pick up a copy of it because for one thing, they included two of my favorite Pixar movie villains in here, and
Yep.
they added your favorite Disney movie villain in
Yep,
here.
hands down. Yeah, Mad Madam Mim.
And the two
From
I'm
Sword
talking
and
about
Stone.
is Syndrome from The Incredibles
Yep,
and Lotsa Bear from Toy Story 3.
that's right. Yeah, so those are going to be great villains. If you've never played this game, that might be a great one to jump into.
And it just made me think, because Lotso Bear is like a strawberry, because he was about like a strawberry
Yes.
scent bear. And it just makes me giggle that his player piece is like a strawberry.
Yeah, exactly, because he smells like a strawberry.
They also announced Disney Gargoyles Awakening for the hobby release.
Yep.
It was exclusive in Target. And this was a really long one, because if it's just going to the hobby and they're saying around May, that's almost like a year exclusive,
Right.
because it came out in August to Target.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and take this one because...
That one?
Yep.
Go for it.
Another villainous. They've already announced it. Star Wars villainous. But it's interesting about this is it's an August release. It's, I think, a mix. So it's both going to big box as well as FLGSs. So if you want to support your FLGS, do that.
Yeah.
They didn't really clearly say what's going to happen, but they were saying, like, yeah, it's going to go to you guys as well.
That's right.
And this one, it's a mix of Disney and Marvel Fate decks. So you're gonna have your own personal Fate decks, as well as a mixed one like Marvel does, because there's like a co-op thing. It's also announced vehicles for this game because X-wings, TIE fighters, they're very
Right.
popular.
That makes sense.
They're going to be both in the villain deck as well as the Fate deck. So you have that, and it says here same time as mass market.
That's awesome. And T. Cheth, forgive us the name, says best Disney villain is Kirby, which is hilarious. I don't quite understand that. But the vacuum from the Brave Little Toaster, oh my god.
That would be...
Is Brave Little Toaster Disney, though?
No, I don't think it is. It might be Disney now because they own everything.
It probably is. But yeah, I forgot about the vacuum. That would be fantastic.
And so
wouldn't it?
before we end this part of the podcast,
vacuum is Kirby. Yeah.
and to start up the next one, let's talk about the Asmodee stuff.
Okay, that's
Because
right.
this is the big stuff.
So Asmodee talked about, they had a big seminar right at the beginning of it. They did their keynote. Some of the more important things that are worth noting.
I'll give you the first one.
Skyrim the Adventure board game. Looks absolutely amazing. It's by Asmodee and Modifius. And honestly, it looks cool. It looks kind of like their Fallout game where one thing unlocks other parts. Comes with 6 chapters. Yeah,
2 campaigns.
2 campaigns. Yeah, so, I mean, if you like Skyrim, it's probably it. However, they did announce the price point, too. That's $140.
Which is not surprising. Descent was around that price, too.
Right.
So
Considering how big it is, I'm sure it makes sense. But still,
Yeah.
holy cow.
it's going to be hard. I mean, it's not going to be that hard for retail stores to sell it, but it's also going to be hard for retail stores to sell it because
Right.
it's got to be a good game.
And the next thing that I just feel like pointing out real quick is that we noticed that Asmodee is also distributing some level 99 games. So, real quick shout out, if I3 is still with us, maybe you can add some clarification.
Yeah.
I didn't know level 99 was sold to Asmodee.
Or they're just distributing.
I'm just kidding. I know they're not sold to it, but
Yeah,
that's
well,
interesting. I had no idea about
Yeah.
this. That's great.
Apparently, they're also distributing Canvas, so that was intriguing to me
Right.
as well. So rest of the stuff they've already announced. They do have the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy line now, so that was intriguing. They do distributing for level 99 so that's
Great news.
good clarification. They've talked about Marvel X-Men United as well as Sidekicks. Drinks with My Frenemies. That
Looks awful.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, there's nothing about that I like about it.
it's a drinking game in an 80 style is what I have. Oh no, Drinking Quest Old Habits is the drinking game with 80 style cross. It's like meh.
Right.
Millennial Manatees is another one that just, oh god, are you guys going down the Hasbro line here?
Well, I mean, they sell.
Yeah.
It makes sense if it's in a mass market store. Sure, why not?
Looking at like the level 99
There
stuff
was
here.
3D Catan.
Oh, the expansion, yes.
They're doing the Seafarers expansion for the 3D Catan, which I think was $300 retail. And I was like, honestly, if I bought it, it wouldn't make any sense because I would never be able to expand it because I thought that was going to be it.
Nope.
Turns out I'm wrong.
Yeah, they're doing it with the expansions too. They also announced some puzzles for Catan, and including also the Lord of the Rings, the card game, is getting a revised core set and campaign set, kind of like how they did with Arkham Horror.
Right, which is good that they're finally doing that.
Yeah.
Then they announced Jabba's Palace, the love letter take on. I know you and I are jumping around a little bit. The love letter take on Star Wars. It's a new Star Wars. But they explained it a little more thoroughly, and that looks really cool.
3D Catan is the landscape 3D.
Yes, yeah. The landscape is 3D. It's not the full game itself. It's just more like the mountains are actual miniatures painted, and they're really high quality from what I've seen.
There's a couple things also that you skipped over for me. They announced the next campaign expansion for Marvel Champions, which is the Sinister Motives. So you're pretty much getting the Sinister Six.
Yep.
I didn't realize you and your boss didn't realize X-Wing's no longer Fantasy Flight until I told you about it.
Yeah,
and it's Atomic Mass Games. They're announcing some stuff for it as well. Let's go ahead there. Checkers and chess, so the classic games, as well as Exploding Kittens, the 2-player version. They announced. I want to talk about the one that both of us were like,
we've never heard of.
It looked really interesting.
They had a great video for it. It's a game called Yak, which we had never heard of before. But basically, you have like these 4 little carts. Each one has a yak, which is a big yak meeple, but they have horns sticking out, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And you're loading it with different kinds of goods, and you're moving them around, like buying and selling them. It looks almost like a cool rondel kind of game. But then right at the very end of the video, do you remember what they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it the most epic thing, and then it's like, and yak coming with, and it was like this big like Hollywood cinematic thing. And it was like baby yak, and it was a little tiny yak that.
It is the first player token.
It's the first player token. Yeah, it's so cute. It looks really cool. I don't know anything about the game
too.
Yeah. Great components too.
As well as they announced some new unlock expansions that were intriguing. I'll say the first one. I'll let you have the good one. They announced Legendary Adventures 2, so you're going to get more Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that in there. But the one that we both were like, oh.
Yeah. Well, they're doing an Unlock Kids, too.
Oh, yeah. They're doing Unlock Kids.
So a kids version of Unlock Tide is app independent. It doesn't need the
you don't
app
need
at
the
all.
app.
But the one that you and I got really excited about, which really we shouldn't be,
they're
doing the games system for Unlock, which they picked 3 games in their line, which was Ticket to Ride, Pandemic, and Mysterium.
Honestly, Pandemic and Mysterium makes sense. And if you think about Ticket to Ride, it's Murder on the Orient Express.
Right, exactly. And so they're going to have 3 unlock experiences for those 3 games. That's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's really meta if you think about it. We're going to make a game under Asmodee line.
Yes.
By Space Cowboys.
Yeah.
About 3 other games that are in the Asmodee line.
Under 3 different publishers.
So you got Ticket to Ride, which is Days of Wonder. Pandemic is Z-Man. And Mysterium is...
something else.
Libellude.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite intriguing, but I'm really looking forward to those. Maybe you'll try to experience the murder of Mysterium instead of being the ghost.
Right. That would be super fun, wouldn't it?
They actually announced a very big party game in the UK, like a spelling game or something like that, called Bezer Wezer. They're bringing it over to America.
Yeah, see, the thing is, it's been in America before.
Has it?
Yes, I used to own a copy of Bezer Wezer. It used to sell in mass market stores. It's just another trivia game, in my opinion. It's just another trivia game, but they have like 20-something different criteria. So, like, you might play, like, Trivial Pursuit and go, okay, well, movies, like I might do music or history or whatever, and they have 6 categories. Where this is just like a 20 category version, so it's kind of the same thing except you can focus more on more niche stuff. But other than that, I don't see it like
being that big.
Yeah,
I'll let you take the big one because both you and I looked at this game.
Is it this one?
Yep.
Okay, so the new Azul. Oh my god. Yeah, that alone, I'm stoked for it. I don't know much about it. I don't want to know. I don't care. Because I'm going to buy it. And
it looks good too, though.
Because I know it's hexagonal tiles. and the coasters that they would normally be on, you're actually drafting those as well.
Yeah.
So that's part of the gameplay. You're making your board as well as getting the tiles needed for your board.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It
can't
looked really
even
good.
begin to explain how excited I am for that.
I have Namiho. I don't remember that one at all.
I don't
just wrote
remember
it
it at all.
down.
Yeah.
But you have another good one, so why don't you tell me?
Yeah, Quacks and Co. It's the kids' version of Quacks of Quedlinburg, which is very intriguing to me because, I don't consider Quacks of Quedlinburg to be a difficult game anyway. But, I guess you have to keep up with live math. I'm curious to see what Quacks and Co. does differently to the formula. Get it? Or, anything else that they do specifically for a kids-friendly version. Maybe it's just simpler stuff. Maybe it's, there's no numbers on it, whatever. Maybe they have easier abilities. I just don't know. I'm speculating a lot, but it does look cool, and I quite like Quacks of Quedlinburg.
Yeah, it looks intriguing, especially for like a good game for kids. So I'm intrigued by it. So honestly, it was a good premiere presentations, but this one has gone a long time. So let's finish up our Gama recap in a little bit.
So this will be the end of the first half. This is all the way through Tuesday. Tune into our next episode, which we'll talk about Wednesday and Thursday at the Gama Trade Show.
As well as, just want to remind you that I like I said, I'm going to release these both in the same week. This way we don't mess with our schedule.
Yeah, that's fine by me. So we want to thank you so much. If you ever want to contact us directly, you can. Email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as all video re-uploads are found on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what we do there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And if you want to join us on a live episode while we're filming, you can join us like our friends Ithri and everybody else who joined us in today. Join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
You can also get in contact with us at our official Twitter account at EBG Podcast.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.